Yo, what's good folks, it's KnightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video. I'm going back and making my Immortal Excalibur Umbra even better. The poster boy of Warframe, everyone's favorite starter Warframe, the Weeb frame, Genji frame, but Umbrified. I released an Excal Umbra video a while back. It was a decent build, but after some time I've improved on it and made it even better with some weapon and arcane synergies. Since we have the new Melee 2.9 3.0 thing going on, it makes Excalibur even more versatile. Doing mods or any endurance run that is littered with nullifiers never felt so easy, as you can remain an Exalted Blade and still shoot with your primary or secondary, and in this case running around with a miter. The fluidity is just so good. Pop a bubble and howl, instantly rendering them useless and clear for the kill. Moving on, there's some people who find using Exalted Blade for a continuous period of time hard and tiring for your finger. Well, how about binding your melee key to something else? For example, the scroll wheel. With a quick flick of the wheel, you melee like crazy. Kinda saves your finger the hassle. The build I have is built around his Exalted Blade. It's a very simple build that does a lot of damage. Since a large majority of people are very familiar with his abilities, let's skip right to the build. The aura has got to be Steel Charge, good boost to melee damage, and the additional mod capacity. The Exilus is a personal preference. I find Handspring better for melee-based Warframes, as it helps them get back on their feet in an instant, which is so good for survivability and personal DPS. The less time you spend on your back, the better. And since this is Excal Umbra, he can fit all three Umbral mods with ease, giving him the perfect balance between power, health, and armor. Then we have Hunter Adrenaline to help us replenish energy when we take hits, but if that's too much for you, you can always replace it with Primed Flow for an even bigger energy pool. Primed Continuity for duration for our blind and helps with energy cost. Streamline for the energy efficiency, Adaptation for additional defenses, and finally the mighty Chromatic Blade. This is just an amazing augment that turns our Exalted Blade into a status monster and will give your Exalted weapon a base element depending on your energy color. Since I'm using the Infested Pink, my base element will be Heat. For example, blue will give you electricity, whites or black will give you ice, green will give you toxin. Arcane Guardian for even more added defenses, Arcane Strike to increase our attack speed by 40% for 12 seconds. But if you don't mind the attack speed loss, you can always swap it out for Arcane Grace for even more tankiness. Onto our Exalted Umbra Blade. I formatted the Sacrificial Pressure for Primed Pressure Point because it's better for the increase in damage. Condition Overload is to increase our overall DPS with every status effect we inflict on the enemy. I've modded it to be Corrosive and Blast, and since Blast counts as two status types, the bad guys are going to have a hard time. Berserker to increase our attack speed from 30 to 75% every time we crit with our melee. And this time around, I went for Life Strike to heal us for 5% of our HP every time we do a channel attack. As Healing Return does not work well with Blast, because Healing Return will heal for 11 health per status. In my previous build, I used Corrosive and Heat, and since Fire is a damage over time, it will constantly heal us every time we inflict that status. But if you're going up against the Corpus, switch your elements around to give you Gas and Magnetic, then swap Life Strike for Healing Return, since the gas clouds will be a deadly damage over time against the Corpus. Also, Healing Return is phenomenal against hordes of enemies like in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught or going up against heavier units. So play around with it and see what works for you in certain situations. This isn't it. Since Excal's passive gives him bonus damage and attack speed when wielding a sword, I put the Arcane Exodia Force into my Nikana Zaw. Even though we're not using it, this arcane does proc with Exalted Blade, giving us another massive DPS increase. Basically, every time we inflict a status on an enemy, we deal 200% of the weapon damage to targets within range. Pretty juicy right there. And finally, a great utility for Excalibur is to have a nice constant supply of crit buffs and some healing here and there. And that's where Princess Fluffy Butt enters the stage. This is a utility built Adarza Kvat that has some decent amount of tankiness and survivability. Cat's Eye for a crit chance buff, Tech Enhance to increase the duration of that buff by 30%. Tech Assault and Reflect are nice defensive mods for the Kvat, where Tech Assault denies the Kvat to take lethal hits, and Reflect gives the Kvat a 40% chance to reflect the damage back to the attacker. That will be amplified by 60%. Hunter Recovery to give some additional healing, and Pack Leader allows me as Excalibur to keep my Kvat healed up every time I attack with my melee. This works with Exalted Blade as well. Alright, I hope this video does help out those Excalibur fans out there, but then again, this is how I like to play my Excal, but I'm sure some of you run him for different things. This build is here for a template for how you would build your Excalibur. There will always be some rando in the comments saying, "Oh, I've had this build since day one, what's new?" First of all, good for you, give this person a round of applause. Secondly, there are billions of people out there, and some who do not know how to build their Excalibur or what's good for him, so this video is here to help them out. Thirdly, be more constructive and helpful rather than being a foul-smelling genital. Anyway, that's been it for me. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more, refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.